So on to problem number 2, the MIT integration big qualifying exam 2017, which is the definite integral from x equals to 1 to x tending to infinity of the natural logarithm of x over x squared. Fairly, I think, easy problem to work on. Let's see how we may be able to solve it. So this is our problem, right? Natural logarithm of x over x squared integrated from x equals to 1 to x tending to infinity. I would like to express it as something like that, right? And then I would say let u be equal to log of x, right? Such that du dx equals to 1 over x, and we could now say du can be used to substitute for dx over x. And then our limits, x, u, x is 1, natural logarithm of 1 is 0. As x tends to infinity, it also tends to infinity there. So in other words, 1 to infinity log x over x dx over x. We've already found that this is du. We've found that this tends to 0. This is infinity for the case of u, and this is u. And then x becomes e to the negative e to the power u. So this becomes 0 to infinity u over e to the u and du. So this becomes 0 to infinity of u e negative u du. And how we may be able to further express this is u becomes the derivative with respect to u of negative e to the u du. That is the same as this e to the negative u, right? And using integration by parts, you have two functions, v and the derivative of a function u multiplied together. When you try to integrate that, you have a product of u and v minus the product of the function u and the derivative of function v. So knowing that our u is the negative e to the power u, 0 to infinity of u derivative of negative e to the is the same as u. This is u, this is v. This becomes negative u e to the u from 0 to infinity, and then we have plus, because we have a minus minus, u being negative times this negative, it becomes a plus, and now the derivative of u, which is 1, so we now have negative u 0 to infinity, and this becomes negative u e negative u 0 infinity plus the integration. When you integrate this, it becomes negative e to the negative u 0 to infinity. So this eventually becomes limit as u tends to infinity of negative u e negative u minus limit as u tends to 0 negative u e negative u plus limit as u tends to infinity of negative e to the negative u minus limit as u tends to 0 of negative e to the u. As you can see here, as u tends to infinity here, this part here tends to 0, and so this entire enterprise goes to 0. Here, as u tends to 0, this part goes to 0, so this entire enterprise goes to 0. here as u tends to 0, this part goes to 0, so this enterprise tends to 0. And here as u tends to 0, here this e to the power negative u tends to e to the 0, which is negative 1. So this is negative 1. And so our answer becomes 0 minus minus 1, which is positive 1. So in other words, our integral from 1 to x tending to infinity of the natural logarithm of x over x squared equals to 1. And that is the expected answer. So again, thank you for listening. Until next time, ta-da.